and welcome to Capital Market Live on Channels Television. I'm Will Ibang. First is first, as usual. Let's check in on the markets and see how your stocks performed for the week. Now, the domestic stock markets consolidated the gains recorded in the prior week. That's in the previous week, as bargain hunting dominated activities during all trading sessions of the week. We saw the all-share index advancing by almost 2.9% week on week to close at 54,202.58 points. We also saw buying interest in MTN Nigeria, Giregu, and Seplat that spurred the positive performance. It drove the weekly gain, and this propelled the market's month-to-date and year-to-date returns to glide to 1.8% and 5.8% each. Now, activity levels also mirrored the overall market performance. We saw the trading volume and value surging by 339.89% and 101% each. Sectoral performance was broadly positive. We saw the oil and gas index recording the most significant gain there, followed by the banking, insurance, and industrial goods indexes. But on the flip side, we saw consumer goods index was the sole loser for the week. International Energy Insurance, IEI, topped the gainers chart for the week, while CHAMS led the losers. Now, the trio of Universal Insurance, GTCO, and Zenith Bank contributed 80.45% and 16.92% to the total equity volume and value traded in the week. Now, over to the unlisted markets, we see similar performance there. The NASDOT Securities Exchange closed the trading week in the positive territory. The unlisted equities index rose nearly 2% as the exchange gained over 18 billion naira in value. However, turnover was mixed. Volume traded fell by about 60% to 24.46 million units, while value traded rose by 10.25% to close above 96 million naira. Niger Delta Exploration and Production topped the gainers chart for the week, followed by Friesland Campina Wamco. There were no losers for the week. At the same time, we did see Geofluids, UB and Property, and Friesland Campina Wamco among the top 5 stocks traded by volume for the week. Now, joining me to review the market activities is Azizat Awunuga, Securities Analyst, Parthian Securities Limited. It's good to have you on the program, Azizat.
Hi, Will. Good evening. It's good to be here.
Azizat, it's a major milestone that the NGX, ASI, the all-share index, have hit this week. We saw the all-share index cross the 54,000 level. What's next after this? What do we expect from the NGX?
Okay, so what we saw this week was very, very positive, as you had earlier mentioned. So every single day, every single trading day closed in positive on the market, and the market gained 2.95, week on week, putting the year to date as at 5.78%, and we're just, entering into the first week of February. So what we expect to see in the coming weeks are more earning releases. We're patiently waiting for, some industries such as banking. We're talking about the large cap guys and some other bellwether stocks. So volume of transactions, the volume this week was very, very significant in terms of increase week on week. We saw about 4 times as what we saw last week. So it went from about 756 million last week to 3.8 billion, this week. That's very, very significant.
So let me just cut you there. Speaking of the volume and the value, the turnover of transactions in the market, I see that it was so huge. And I'm just wondering, just humor me here, that the app downtime that Nigerians have been experiencing didn't cause a dent to the transactions at the equities market. What happened there? What was different?
So the truth is, most of these transactions, as much as we retail investors, have a say and we get to play, the market movers are actually more of the institutional guys. Also, we might also see on some stocks, some foreign play, right? And liquidity in that sense of being able to make transactions might not have had such a significant impact. Also, what is happening nowadays is that due to technology, a lot of stock purchasing applications, like, there are avenues that retail investors purchase. So they kind of have wallets where your money is already on the platform in order to buy or to sell, even, with your brokers. If you're able to have an online platform, if you already have some cash put aside for investing purpose and you've put that already in that system, I don't think it would have affected, so much. But majorly it's the institutional guys that, that really made that push.
Okay, so we also did see some stocks making moves in the market. We saw Northern Nigeria flour mills, also saw Geregu. But before we get to Geregu, we just shed light on what we're seeing with Northern Nigeria. What's spurring the investors' interest in that stock? We did know they had good performance in their Q3 earnings, but is there any other thing driving interest for that stock?
As you've said, actually, it's the good performance in the Q3 earnings. Because what then happens is that investors start to speculate and they start to use that as a basis of what is going to happen in Q4. So for a stock like Northern Nigeria, we know they have brand products that we all know, such as Golden Penny, and they actually did 44.44%, week on week, which is quite significant. Also, we might say that investors are taking advantage of the good entry points, as at, last week it was trading at about 675 thereabouts, and now, it's up in the nines, right? So that was a good entry price, and investors who entered at that right time, they are sitting pretty now. Also, we might also see a dividend play come out by them, although since their results are not out, we can't be too sure. But these are some of the factors that investors would consider when trying to stay or make play at a particular stock. And I think Northern Nigeria Flour Mill is just the beneficiary of that sentiment.
Okay, so Geregu made moves as well. Now, apart from dividend, 8 Naira dividend that was announced, which is driving the current rally we're seeing, Geregu has moved from a listing price of about 100 Naira to 219 Naira as of date. Yeah. We're aware that, but is it that not a lot of these stocks are out there of Geregu shares? So is it the scarcity that is really ramping up interest or driving up the price of this stock in the market?
I mean, yes, that is one aspect to it. As you said, it's just 5% of the total market capitalization, or total capitalization rather, that is in the market. But, when we look at a stock like Geregu and trading it, what we tend to see is that majority of the trades that actually move these prices are what we call cross trades. So they are like predetermined deals and don't come, just trades like that to the market. So we saw a lot of cross trades in Geregu over the week, and we think that was part of the reasons that it moved up. Because when you think about it in comparison to their earnings, I mean, we saw about a 32.9% decline in their revenue year on year. And their profit after tax also declined by 50.5% to about 10.2 billion, right? So with those numbers, we should not be seeing as much gravitation towards that stock, especially from retail investors. So it's not in the normal market fashion, but as we all know, the Nigerian market is not particularly an efficient one. So that's I'll just leave it at that.
While we're leaving at that, let's see, during the week too, we did see a closing gong ceremony, which was performed by MTN Nigeria CEO Kyle Toriola and the CEO of the Nigeria Exchange Limited, Mr. Temi Popola. Mr. Popola highlighted the exchange's plan to attract more listings and make Nigeria's local bourse more robust in 2023 and beyond. Let's take a listen to that track.
Yes. I think we were the first electronic offer, and that has set a precedent, and I don't really see how people going forward are going to do paper offers going forward, because with an electronic offer the reconciliation is done in hours, and with paper offers it takes you a few months. So we've set that precedent, set the bar high for anyone who's listing, but what we're doing beyond that is working together with CSCS and the Nigerian Exchange to ensure that for future offers and for trading on an active basis, you can do it off a digital interface, and in fact, even a USSD interface. So there's a lot in the pipelines to enable that, and it will be, as we achieve those milestones in development, we'll communicate them to the public. It's primarily the responsibility of the NGX and CSCF.
It was the first time ever in our capital markets where you could invest in an offering through a completely digitally enabled channel. So in 5-6 minutes, you could, on a mobile phone, whether you're an existing investor or a new investor in our market, participate in that offering. So that really spoke to the digital transformation efforts and journey that we've been speaking about at NGX for a while. That transaction also brought quite a lot of women to our market, quite a number of young people also into our market. Now, as I look in the future around the things that we're doing together, I'm personally very excited about what I think we.
So back to you, Azizat. I'm sure you saw that. While we wait for the NGX Technology Board to come on board, we had the NGX CEO, Tim Kukola, talking about more women and young people coming on board following MTN's digital offer in 2021. How much progress has been made regarding this digital transformation, and what's the statistics here? Can you give us like a figure, a number, or data? So how many women or how many young Nigerians were able to come into the equities market since then, and what has been the following, or what has been the increase in the market or the traction we've seen in that regard?
Okay, thank you. So I'll say that actually he's right when he said the MTN offering was a milestone. For the first time, all you had to do was, download an application, and whether you're registered with a stockbroker or not before, you'd be able to key into the offering. And this really drove a lot of positive reaction. And what we saw was people who generally had no idea about stocks, or just always hear, I want to invest, but I don't even have an idea. And knowing that MTN is a company that has proven itself over and over and over again over the years in terms of stability, in terms of profitability, them coming into the market in that way really did a number for the NGX when it comes to the attraction or attracting women and youth into that space. So they listed at about 160, then it went to 190, and now we're seeing MTN trade at about 237 as at the last trading session. So it's just more than giving them a channel or being the pioneer in that. It's about doing that and then giving value for those people who participated in those offerings, right?
So what about the number of women? He talked about women and young people coming on board. Can we have like a data to know how many women or how many young people were able to enter the equities market as a result of this?
Oh, okay. So that kind of information will be privy to the CSCS, as they are not allowed to due to data privacy policies. But when it comes to percentage, we can't really also put a number because they've actually not given us those numbers in terms of data. But I can tell from, our company, for one, we've seen about, let's say about 40 thereabout percent increase in our subscribers in terms of when it comes to youth and women.
Oh, that's very nice to know. What would you say is the outlook for next week? Very quickly, how do you see next week performing in the equities market, stocks performing in the equities market?
Okay, so by next week, we're delving, closer into the election season, right? And that is actually going to cause a lot of mixed sentiment. So we have two ends of the curve. So we have those people who are not risk averse, but actually being careful and don't want to have their funds in riskier investments, especially during an uncertain time such as elections. Those people might pull out from the market or, move to more near cash alternatives in terms of investments. While on the other hand, we see investors who know that, this is probably a good time to position in some stocks. And we might see this type of investors, rally things up a bit.
Okay, so thank you so much, Azizat Awunuga, Securities Analyst, Parthian Securities Limited. Many thanks for your time this evening, for sharing your perspective and your time with
Thank you
us.
too.
Now, after the break, a look at Moody's downgrade of Nigeria's credit ratings and possible impact on the capital market. That conversation next. Welcome back. The federal government says it's concerned by the current hardship faced by the citizens over the new Naira note, but describes the pain as transient. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, disclosed this week during the weekly ministerial briefing at the State House. Let's take a look at what she had to say.
Of course we're worried. We're not happy that citizens have to queue and struggle at bank ATMs to be able to get their cash. But this is a temporary solution. Let me just give you an analogy. If you have a wound, for you to be able to heal that wound, it needs to be dressed. And sometimes when you go to the hospital, they'll put iodine on the wound, and it is very painful. But it's necessary to do that to be able to get the wound to heal. So it's not easy, and Mr. President is not happy that citizens are really suffering, but we're convinced that it is something that needs to be done at this time. And also, the central bank has been responsive in terms of providing some extension and also further explanation that come the closing date, that it's not all over, that there's still opportunity for citizens as provided for in the CBN Act Section 20 subsection 3 to actually take their old currency to the central bank for redemption. So it's not all over. But the positive side of it is that there's a lot of currency that has been mopped up by this operation, and it means it has achieved a good level of success. The only sore point is the pain it has caused to citizens, which is regrettable, but which is also very transient and temporary, and the bank is continuing to address it.
And that was the Finance Minister, Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, talking about the pain Nigerians have to face just to move over to the next level of a cashless economy. And joining me, this sets the tone for the next conversation. And joining me in this segment's discussion is Mr. Julius Alagbe, economist and financial analyst, Market Forces Africa. Good evening, Mr. Julius. It's good to have you on the program.
Good evening. Good evening.
Mr. Julius, yes, I can hear you. Mr. Julius is joining us via Zoom call. Okay, that's good. So you've heard what the finance minister said. What are your thoughts about this? And knowing that this relates to the banks, and just recently Moody's downgraded 9 Nigerian banks in the country, what are your thoughts on what the minister has said, first of all?
Well, what the minister says is normal, is expected, is let me call it a kind of a damage control for people not to be feel that they are left alone. But the thing is, the deed has been done. Every Nigerians are feeling the impact of the new scarcity and the fact that some banks are deliberately holding it. So it's not. Minister, somebody has to talk from Masorok. I think what the minister just did for me.
So what the banks that were downgraded, we had Zenith Bank, UBA, Union Bank, Fidelity Bank, GTCO, most of the tier 1 banks and other banks in the country. How would you say, what does it signal to investors? Does this lower investors' confidence in these banks, especially as they're listed on the exchange?
Okay, let me take it from this angle. Number one, when Moody downgraded a sovereign nation like this, they're actually telling the investors that, okay, the political risk, economic risk, and other risks in this country has increased. So even though you are lending them money, you have to request for premium. when Moody downgrade the banks, what they are telling you is that the name banks that they were telling, if you see what happened in the capital market, especially in the stock market now, people still buy. Because the connection between the sovereign nation and the big banks is because they know that, okay, if something happened to the top banks, will Nigerian as a country be able to support it, not to fall? That kind of scenario. So even though Moody downgrade our banks, you see in this equity market still gain. It still remain upbeat. That tells you something. Like the former speaker said, that Nigeria market is not fully efficient. That's what we call efficient market hypothesis, that captured information. What's supposed to happen in a market that is more efficient? All the banks that were downgraded, their share price supposed to nosedive. That's not the case in the market this week. In fact, the market remain upbeat as it has always been. It sustained the uptrend. So the Moody thing is telling the foreign investor that, okay, if you want to lend Nigeria money, let them pay more for it. The Moody is telling that if Nigeria is going to Eurobond market now, it has to pay a higher coupon rate. That is basically what the Moody is saying. The downgrade. It doesn't necessarily affect the stock market. And the thing is, you see this since last year, a lot of portfolio investors are leaving Nigeria stock market. So we have very few hot money. The hot money, the level of hot money in the market is not significant enough compared to the past, where they used to control more than 50% of the market. Now they are just like a minority interest in the local bonds.
So you're saying that there are no direct concerns here for investors. What about indirect concerns or impacts for investors? Literally speaking, is there no concern that investors should be looking at the moment?
Investors in Nigeria are looking at I believe that they understand the macroeconomic condition of the nation more than foreign investors. Foreign investors often rely on Moody's, Fitch rating, S&P rating. They rely on that rating before they bring their money in. Like, okay, I'm going to Nigeria. How much should I be looking at if I'm bringing so much money? If I'm going to buy the bond in the Eurobond market, how much should be like the risk premium? That is what they in Nigeria. Normally, like even though it's not a lot of institutional investors, they have more information about the local economy. They know the direction of the economy. They have their own research unit that the only focus is on Nigeria, so they know the risk they are taking more than somebody that is told that, okay, this is the risk you are taking. So I believe that the market did not shake. But the normal thing, imagine if it is the United States of America that the Fitch or Moody's downgraded, the top stocks must nosedive. Yeah, that is where efficient market hypothesis actually is at play. But in Nigeria, they shake it off. Institutional investors shake it off. They know Nigeria will survive, that kind of mentality. So I think it's at play in the local bourse.
So what you're just saying right now, that even if Moody's, Fitch downgrades Nigeria, it will not touch the bottom line of these companies. And so domestic investors should keep on playing in the market and they'll definitely get their returns. Thank you so much, Mr. Julius Alagwe, financial analyst, Market Forces Africa, for sharing your perspective on the program.
Thank you. You're welcome. I appreciate it.
And that's it on Capital Market. Do join us same time next week. Don't forget you can watch this again on our channel's television page on YouTube. Also follow us on other social media platforms to get updates. And Will Ibang is bye-bye for now.